Good morning. We are at February the 4th, maybe. I don't know, the 4th or 5th. Could be the 3rd. I'm not sure. I want to talk a little bit about angel numbers. I think I've made a video before about angel numbers and truly what I think they mean. I think people, and just in case somebody didn't watch that video, if you're going through a spiritual journey, then you know, or you've heard the term angel number. And I honestly think that just a label, just like empath or other things that go along with it, psychic mediums, prophets, other terminologies used to associate with something. But a lot of people call them angel numbers, and I'm not against them. I've seen too many things with so-called angel numbers that line up exactly with what's going on in my life, maybe even what's going on in my thoughts. There's been many times I'll have a thought going through my head, or not just a thought, maybe a series of thoughts, and I'll get a message with the numbers, a sequence of numbers. I'll just so happen to see 444 or something, and I'll look up the meaning to it, and it's exactly what's happening in my life, the meaning of, or what's going on in my thoughts. And it's pretty wild. And evil can't read thoughts. They can't read your thoughts. They typically just read your emotions. The only really being is God that can read your thoughts, God the Father. So I don't really find a whole lot of evil when it comes to angel numbers. I've seen it too many times lined up with what's happening in my life. That's good, not that's evil. Now I've had some numbers come in before, and they're very discouraging. They're very negative, and of course that's not God. You have to be careful with those numbers and what messages you get, because evil is there as well as good. The closer you get to God, unfortunately, the stronger evil gets, and it will try everything it can in its power to convert you over to the dark side. So just be careful with the numbers that you get. But through my spiritual journey, I've gotten different series of numbers. I might have, when I first started my journey, I might have got 4s. Then maybe once I got to another level, and I say level, I don't mean like I'm better than anybody or I'm a lot more advanced than anybody. I'm human, and I'm going through a spiritual journey just like anybody else would. But I've noticed that my numbers change when I go through an upgrade or Kundalini. After I come out of that, I might start getting 2s, a lot of 2s. I might start getting a lot of 3s, a lot of 1s. I have noticed as of late, and I just went through another Kundalini, which didn't last long at all. I could tell what was happening, but it didn't last very long at all. But as I'm coming out of these, or I'm advancing spiritually, I'm noticing that these numbers are diminishing. I'm not seeing as many numbers as I used to. There's one particular number that I see a lot, and that's 144. Either 1144, or 144, or 1444, or 4441. I'm always seeing 4s for sure. And it could be 944, 844, 744, so on. But I don't see them as frequently as I used to. And I would not consider this a bad thing. And I'm not considering it as being discouraging. I think that when we reach certain levels of spirituality, if you're on a spiritual journey and you're gifted, I guess, maybe I'm just the only one, I don't know, but I've noticed the numbers diminishing, and like I said, I don't consider this to be a bad thing. I think a lot of things with these numbers is really truly God speaking to us. If angels can't read our thoughts, and evil can't read our thoughts, and only God can read our thoughts, and the numbers that we get seem like they're reading your thoughts, then maybe it's God talking instead of angels. Maybe it's just God talking, and maybe they're just labeling it as angel numbers. They're spiritual numbers. They're good meanings unless you're getting a negative one. Of course, we need to bypass those and ignore those. Anything that's discouraging or manipulative is evil. So I think, and what my intuition is telling me, and usually I'm pretty good with my intuition, that I'm no longer needing these numbers, that I'm actually hearing God speak instead, and I'm hearing him speak all the time. So I don't really necessarily need these numbers. Not saying that I don't need them, and I do see them from time to time, and I'm not saying that they're still not encouraging and they're still not helping. But once you start hearing God speak all the time, then there's no longer a purpose for the numbers to speak to you, for God to give you a message. That makes sense. I was speaking to an individual. I'm going to change subject, and I hope I did make some sense with that, what I spoke on. Speaking to an individual the other day, and I think he is a tarot card reader. I'm not necessarily against it. I don't feel like I need it. I think that falls into the psychic. I know a lot of psychics who use tarot cards, and I wouldn't necessarily say I'm against it. I think everybody has their own way of doing things and their own path they need to go on. So I'm not going to say anything bad about it. People have their own conscience. They have their own way and their own path of doing things. But he mentions a couple of names, and this particular guy, and please, I'm not talking bad about anybody. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but I have to put a warning involved with this, a warning label on this. This guy is very angry, very negative. He's completely against Christianity. I'm not a Christian. I don't label myself as a Christian or religious or any of that. I'm spiritual, and I believe in God, and it's just God and I. I don't feel like I need to go to anything else or anyone else to communicate with God. I go straight to God. This particular gentleman is speaking to what he says is Archangel Michael, and I'm not saying that he's not. Also Archangel Hypnosis. So I'm not familiar with this angel here, but I have heard of Michael. But he's getting all his information from Michael, and I'm not saying that he's not, because I don't know for 100% certain. But I know that we have to represent our Father. We have to represent our leader or our teacher. The man is angry all the time. He's negative. He's bitter. He's got so much rage in him. It's not very good representation for his leader. I hope I'm making sense. I'm loving and I'm kind. I was speaking to this gentleman, and I was telling him to please be careful with what and who he speaks to. You don't know, in the spiritual world, evil can represent themselves or present themselves as something good and something beautiful with the name Michael or Angel or whatever the case might be. And you might think that's what it is, but really and truly, it may not. It might be a demon you've got speaking to you or attached to you. The gentleman does have something dark on him. I've told him this. I've seen it on him. And he admitted to it. And and he was going to pray that Archangel would protect him. But if Archangel saw it, and he was said that he was aware that he saw it, then Archangel should have already removed it from him. This is my way of thinking. Just like God. God's my Father. He won't allow anything evil to enter me or attach itself to me. Because God is my Father, I follow Him. I'm not saying that they're not out there waiting, you know, in the shadows for someone to lose their faith, but I'm not going to lose my faith. My faith is way too strong. I've seen it too many times. We have to be careful with who and what we're talking to, or what we think we're talking to, or who we think we're talking to. But I was having a conversation with him, and I was telling him, please be careful. That's all, in a loving way. And the guy was very argumentative with me. He was being very defensive. The guy has been damaged so many times by so-called Christians and religious folks, and they've criticized him, they've judged him, they've condemned him. And I can understand staying away from certain groups. I get it. I understand that. Somebody's beat you up so many times, you're not going to go to that person. I was abused growing up by both of my parents, and I could not turn to them for love and support and protection. When you can't do that, then you lose respect, you lose faith in that parent or those parents or that teacher or that group of people. I understand it. I get it. And he was very argumentative with me, and I was trying to tell him that I'm not hating on you. I'm telling you this because I love you. And I was never argumentative with him at all whatsoever. I was representing my father. The man had the right to be and act how he wanted to be, and I had the right to not allow that to affect me in any way. The lights finally came on, and I helped open his eyes maybe to some things. He realized that he had a lot of hate, and if God is your father, that's not representation for him, because God is love, God is kindness, God is compassion, He is peace. Be careful who you're talking to and what you're talking to. I hope I made some sense. And just start speaking, and whatever happens, happens. I'll continue to pray for him, and hopefully we'll start to see a change. I'm not saying what he's doing is wrong. We just have to be careful. I know that I saw evil, and I am entering a Starbucks. It is 6:35. That clock is slow. It's fast. What's our temperature today? Zoom in. 32 it looks like. It's 32. I don't know why it's zooming in. Alright guys, I hope I made some sense. I love you guys, and Godspeed.